And I've been chilling, watching the ocean with you. Baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our growlings when people change, but not us. And we just chilling, kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding me up. Play me like a bass guitar, simmer down and mash me up. Tripping like I'm Jimmy at Woodstock. Me up, drumming round in your red Ford, shivers down my spinal cord. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. Got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Holding.
Welcome back, everybody, to EGF CSGO Week 4. We are here on our final match of the night. We already had two absolute bangers, so we gotta close it out with another one. We're bringing out DePaul University against Niagara University, and this is going to be a bit more interesting than the matches we've seen. And to guide you through with a helping hand and some great voices is myself, of course, Los, and joining me on the desk is my main man, Viking. Viking, we had some opinions about the first match, or I mean the second match. Are we feeling a little bit similar to this final one here with DPU versus NU?
I think so. I mean, all respect to Niagara and what they've been trying to do with a very new program, a new title that they're introducing to that overall. They haven't quite found success yet, being the only team in the league without being able to find a map so far this season. That being said, we're only in week 4. There's 16 weeks to go, so there's plenty of opportunities to continue building this foundation. But on the other hand, DePaul is one of our top 4 teams. So they've been putting together some pretty significant, we'll say, statements over the last 3 weeks. They were, prior to this week, one of 3 teams that had only lost a single map across the first 3 weeks of the season. So, with all of that in mind, there's a lot for Niagara to have to overcome here, which is certainly going to be a challenge. It's something that we kind of go in knowing everybody's got an idea of how that's going to work. So, we're just looking for them to get to a point. I mean, I think if I'm not going to write them off. Anything can happen. We certainly hope that that was going to happen with USA versus the powerhouse of Colorado. But if nothing else, so far Niagara, their highest scoring map was an 8-16. So if they can get past that, then I think that they're just continuing to see some of that progress. And by the time we get to the end of the split, who knows? Maybe they're going to be able to challenge, for somewhere higher in the mid tier.
Absolutely. There's many possibilities that can come out of this matchup. And I think, if nothing else, it would be considered a learning experience, a time to become stronger and understand how strong teams play. The only way that you're going to get better in a game is by playing against players who are better and just learning from them, learning how to beat them eventually. So, if they don't come out on top, which I'm not holding my breath for that scenario, sorry to say, Niagara. But if they don't come out on top, there is still something they could take away from this matchup. And, I think we're getting ready to get into the game soon, but even so, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, and we're going to start off on Overpass, which is a map that we've already seen once this evening, 3 times if you include the other stream. So we'll be able to talk through some of the strategies that we've seen in comparison. I think we talked a lot about how varying approaches, especially as we were dealing with Iona versus Villanova, created some uncomfortable positions for Villanova, which is again one of those top half of the score or the leaderboards so far. And on the other stream, Sienna was able to take both maps against Maris, who was previously a top 4 team. So this has kind of been the map for potential upsets. So if nothing else, that's something that maybe Niagara can go home with. But on the other hand, it's also a map that can be a little challenging for players that are coming in as a very new team to develop strategies around, because it's not one of those kind of cores that you'd expect to see from like Death 2, Mirage, Inferno. So that could work in favor of Niagara to some degree, but it also could be a very short match if DePaul is better prepared for it. Although neither of them have really said whether it's one that they prefer overall or not.
Well, Overpass is definitely it's a hot pick throughout this league, and I've seen it quite a few times. I'm sure you have as well. So this is a map that players are going to have to find themselves comfortable on, and even if it isn't their main pick, even if they want to try and play out on Vertigo or Dust 2 or even Ancient, which I would hope no one would want to choose that willingly. This is one of those maps that you have to become proficient on because it's going to be prevalent, so prevalent throughout this league and continuing on into the latter half of the split. The metas are ingrained, the tactics, the rankings, and everything are going to be put into play, and this is one of those maps you are always going to see.
Absolutely. And with that, the knife round has come through cleanly. So we're going to start looking over into game, and we're going to see how these 2 teams fare against one another, whether Niagara is able to take on the Titan that currently is DePaul, or if we're going to have a situation where, the night ends up being a little bit shorter than we initially hoped.
Well, let's not let's not count our rounds before they're lost, our chickens before they're hatched, our bombs before they're planted, Viking. Anything can happen here in EGFC, and I truly believe that.
Very true. And it looks like we're starting off with Niagara on the CT side, which we've talked about this before in a situation where being able to take on the CT side gives you a little bit more comfort, a little bit more stability than trying to plan through your plan of attack and hope that you can accomplish that. We're already seeing Jaeger on the DePaul side come out, get some of those early frags, and that aggression is going hard towards that A site.
They're rushing through toilets and trying to make their way onto site. Swordbird is holding them back a little bit, finding 2, if anything, and there will be some help. Swordbird picking up a 3rd before Nafy finally puts it to rest. Focus hanging out in the back, waiting to join their teammates. It's a 2-on-3 right now. The bomb is going to go down with Squaw if he can manage to get the plant done. Pedro and Flux will make their way through the back. And finally, it's going to get put down. It wasn't allowed to be planted earlier. Now it's all to Squaw to try and keep themselves alive in a very hard scenario. Finds one, might be able to find a second if they can figure out where he is. Pedro and Flux, however, won't go down so easily.
And for all of the talk that we had going into this map, Niagara is saying we are not going down without a fight. We're going to make a statement early. We're going to make one that's intense. And they were able to take a round that was pretty evenly matched there and ultimately come out victorious, which is going to set them up, pretty good in this situation as they're trying to get as many rounds on the board as they can on the CT side before they switch over to T. That being said, because of the bomb plan, we see DePaul here already buying back a little bit, investing a little bit more heavily into some AKs and some Galeals. So it looks like just because of some delays on the Niagara side, they're not going to have that full buy or position quite much, but they're coming against, 2 M4s and an MP9. So they do have some answers for this, but whether or not that's going to go in their favor is yet to be seen.
Swordbird getting a little dangerous, moving through tons. Might have a chance to catch a surprise on the players who are moving up through toilets as well as Party. It's going to be Fechner, though, picking up 2. Looking quite nice before he's get traded out by Got Jaeger. Now this long-range attack, the USP attempt from that player over in A. Wow. And just like that, folks, and Broth coming up and cleaning through Connector. This is actually looking pretty good so far, despite the investment that came through from DePaul University.
Yeah, that was a huge round for Niagara there, because now they're putting DePaul in a position where they can't buy if they want a chance going into the next round. I mean, you see them here. They've got some pistol and armor, which of course makes sense, just sort of based on the economic situation. They want to hover around that 2K mark to make sure that they can buy reasonably into the next round. And Niagara, on the other hand, able to continue with the MP9s, try to rack up as much cash as possible. And as long as they're not overly aggressive here, which for the most part, other than maybe this Swordbird unfortunately going down a breezy there, it creates this opening, and that was one of the M4s that went down. So suddenly this is certainly not, it's far from over, but a much less comfortable position to be in than I think Niagara would have been hoping for.
Well, they're not going to give up just yet. Still maintaining site control, and there hasn't been a rotation, as there's no need to. One player goes down, and there are 2 holding toilets, 1 on long toilets. And I do believe they're going to opt over for that B play, rotating through connectors. So at this point, it's all going to be up to Broth and Patron and Flux. If they can hold it down and get that information while maintaining their lives, this is still a good scenario for Niagara.
And Niagara is doing a great job here of being patient. They're not pushing somebody out into a site or out of the site where they might get picked off by an angle. They're ready for this aggression, and you see the Niagara side starting to... Oh, man. Those 2 kills from God Jaeger and Squad just making a huge difference in that, but able to come back and just do some really great work and really just holding down that site all by himself.
Focus doing well to keep them in the game, but both players are out there to make this 2v2 kind of difficult running through. He's got to get the player over on site, finds one, the other's on the other side of Graffiti, and now it's turned into a 1v1. I don't think he's fully sure where it is. Breezy gets the kill over onto Focus, and they win that round, and it finally has some good fortune over for DePaul, and that's actually a crucial one because we were talking about how they needed to come up with a win to conserve that money and that economy, and that they did. And it's even forcing Niagara to pull out the Nova for Fechner there.
Ironically, a weapon that we've never seen from Villanova. But you're right, the buyback options here for Niagara were super limited, and we see Swordbird go down there early. Luckily, he was a player with just a pistol, so the rest of the team does have a bit of a chance to play from where they want to, but they're kind of in this weird position where they want to play a little aggressively to take advantage of these weapons, but unfortunately, Broth and Fechner not being able to take anything out, and so now you've got this 2v4 situation where the bomb is towards the B site, but it's moving very quickly in the other direction, and now Focus and Pedro Flex are going to have this problem of debating on, do we know where they're coming from? Are they moving back into Paul, doubling back to take out the situation?
Perhaps not the best idea. Focus is there to find one, but they will take out both Pedro and Flux and Focus as soon as they explode back onto site. The double back, it's not a move we haven't seen before here in EGF, but a welcome one for sure, despite how uncommon it is.
And when that second win, DePaul's in a pretty good position. They certainly are able to kind of, instead of having to take a timeout or an extended round lead or anything like that, they're able to, come back, stabilize a little bit, get those 2 wins on the rifles, and just, make sure that they're able to contend with the aggression.
Oh my God.
So hard to get that out.
Squawk going huge and taking out a majority of those players, and Nafy there to come and clean up the scraps of Focus. That's an unfortunate round to face if you're Niagara, but again, it wasn't anything major. They were just looking to run it down. Just good round, go next, forcing themselves to get into a position where they can actually have some firepower coming through.
And they came through pretty well there. They got it over with. They got it out of the way. They're back here. They're on rifles again. So I think the main difference that I'd like to see now that they're in this position, although we see Broth already going down to a demigod who takes a second and Squad taking that third. Man, Niagara is just, in comparison to the first round, just unable to connect with some of these early points of aggression from DePaul. And now they're in this position where they're stuck on their back foot.
Yeah, it's all a Focus now. All alone on B side, but realizing, hearing all those footsteps, he's got to make his way over to A. Probably just pick up anything that he can. He will find Squaw getting quite aggressive, moving through Bank. So this isn't a done deal just yet, but it's going to be hard pressed for Focus to try and come out on top. I would imagine that there's at least one more frag waiting for him, or he's going to hold on to this AK and preserve that rifle. But this movement toward Bank seems to say otherwise. Looking for that kill, but no, Breezy. They're too quick on the draw. And that's going to be another round for DePaul.
It's an unfortunate round in that buyback scenario where you're trying to have something just go your direction, but unfortunately, you got through that early part of the round and you're already dropping 2 or 3 players, and Focus, doing a great job trying to bring that back and make something out of it. But unfortunately, DePaul's aggression in these situations, whether it's doubling back and just hitting these sites hard, has so far proven just being a little bit too much for Niagara to handle.
And let's see if that aggression comes through again as they're moving through Monster. But, oh, actually, Niagara coming through the water, trying to find some easy picks, but they only find themselves dead as DePaul University has taken sight in the blink of an eye. Now the players are holding up in heaven, and one is going to try and swing out through tunnels, but they're not going to find much there or much of anything here at this point.
I admire the fact that Niagara is trying varied looks when they're in these economic disadvantages. Certainly you've got a couple options in that where you can either, full save, you can, try to force towards a particular direction, you can nade sack, you can do all these different things. And we're seeing some of that varied aggression, just trying to pick off as many people as they can. And at least for Niagara's part, it is typically netting them at least one player, but it's not putting wins on the board, which is certainly what they need to if they're, going to see success later on in the game. But they're going to be back to buying rifles again for the most part here. It looks like nobody's going to be hurting for weaponry. So now we're going to be able to see if they're able to kind of settle, what's been frankly a rough couple of rounds over the last 5 where they've come out winless, and see if they're able to, put something together here.
Okay, this time it will be another bit of aggression from Fechner, actually doubling back, realizing, hey, maybe this probably isn't the best course of action, and rightfully so, as the players of DePaul flood out into toilets and out through connector eventually, or no, they're going to just opt for a full push down mid. And if he was caught in the middle of that, might have been able to pick up a frag for himself, but would have ended in death regardless. Now they're making their way over on the A side. It's going to be Nafy taking out Fechner, the first Swordbird. However, will come out with a frag of his own. They're trying to hold on, but Nafy continues the fire as DePaul University are slowly, well, I wouldn't say slowly, they have surely taken sight. Focus, however, himself in a threatening position with that op, sending out multiple flashes. Might come out for another peek. Focus does find another one. If he turns the corner, he would find Nafy, but he does not turn, and Nafy is there for not one, but two, and he might even come out with the ace, and there it is. Nafy with a massive round for themselves, and that's a 6th round win for DePaul University.
I really, when you saw those kind of opening kills from Swordbird, and you started to see the way that DePaul stalled a little bit on site, I had hoped that Niagara was going to be able to pull that out, especially focus on that op, just pulling off some incredible frags from that dumpster position. Unfortunately, just, kind of gets caught out from the Nafy over by the truck, and Nafy just having the round of their lives, just coming over and making sure that they were punishing the concept of even coming into his house.
Yeah, well, things are looking a little different here on round 9, as folks and crew, as well as Broth, they're making this hurt for DePaul University. 3 players down, just Nafy, our ace hero from last round, as well as Squaw. Both these players doing a lot of damage so far individually throughout this match. Let's see what they can do together. A drone flux gonna walk right into them. Now we do have Broth here to find one, and he's going to swing out for the second, but he doesn't win the battle against Squaw. And Squaw, isolating these battles, can actually come out on top here. And Fechner, all the way over in toilets. And DC's...
That's an unfortunate way to end that round. There's really not a lot that they could have done there. And I think that the heartbreaking element of that is that was absolutely Niagara's round to lose. They had everything going from them from the early aggression, Focus doing some amazing work to make sure you got those kills from the connector side. Where it really fell apart is when they tried to challenge all the way back in T side, and they just ended up in a position where between Squaw's aim and just kind of the luck of the way that the so we're now kind of in this position where instead of looking at a 3-5 or a 3-6, excuse me, which is a little bit more manageable, Niagara's on 2 rounds to DePaul's 7, and DePaul on the T side is starting to run away with this. I don't think they've had Niagara has not answered to 7 of DePaul's rounds.
No, that was such a heartbreaking moment for Niagara to lose it, because that's one of those situations where you have done enough. You've done enough in terms of aggression. You've gotten far enough through connector, getting into their heads, getting a little bit into their space on the map. And once you've done that, you don't need to commit anymore. You're already in such an advantageous position that you don't have to do anymore. You can just wait for them. And unfortunately, they probably let the excitement of getting so many early frags get to them, and they wanted to continue that play. And it resulted in so many unfortunate 1v1s that Niagara just had to lose it, on top of an unfortunate DC.
Yeah, just one of those classic overextension plays where, if they had gone back to site, they'd played a little bit more conservatively. It could have gone the same direction. I mean, certainly when we're talking about the 2 players that were still alive on the DePaul side, like anything can happen. But at least it would have given them a little bit more opportunity. And then, of course, unfortunately, we lost Fechner, I think it was, off of the Niagara side, who's working on coming back. But for the time being, we've got Bot Don, who I've heard great things about so far.
Yeah, I've heard quite a few things about Don as well, but also I'm hearing rumors about DePaul University saying that they eat at some of the chillest restaurants and hang out with the hottest dudes. If you're in a situation where you are a competitive gaming player for your university, that's something you'd want to be able to do. The hottest shots in the game, whether they are dudes or women. I think that's quite important to surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you and uplift your program as well.
What a positive message. Just really keeping it all together. I wonder often as we get into these situations where, we're sitting here staring at players just, reflecting on their own, what thoughts goes through Don's head? Does he think? Does he dream? Does he know that he's part of a simulation? It's tough to see.
Well, the question is, do you know you're part of a simulation, Viking?
I've accepted that fact. I get to play my video games. I get to eat at some of the chillest restaurants. I'll take that. It's all right.
I did hear that you were going to eat at a chill restaurant afterward. A sick $15 off coupon for a one
Mm,
McDonald's. What do you normally get over there?
I'm a sucker for a good deal. I mean, my go-to is always that McGriddle when it's available because it's just something about, like pancake buns. You can't go wrong with that. It's just the right sweet and savory combination. It's just a thing of beauty. It brings a tear to my eye every single time.
Pancake buns. I'm a big fan of the fries, and I gotta run it
Mm.
with that McFlurry. The M&M's McFlurry is what does it for me. I think that's a key to victory, and maybe something that Niagara University would be able to bring in, whether it's this map or the next following map. A Oreo McFlurry could help you chill out and rethink any strategies that you're going through a competitive scenario.
Have you found a McDonald's that reliably has a working McFlurry machine?
That's always a question. I'm like, is it actually broken? Is it
Mm.
actually, or is it just a fake? Are we
Oh
being
man,
lied to? What exactly is the technical error that is both bringing the McFlurry out of order and also keeping Don within this game? What are the technical errors that we're doing? And I'm willing to go in myself and work it out and try and fix it so we can get my tasty frozen treat as well as this match on the way.
man, there's like a whole thing about the McDonald's ice cream machines out there now talking about like the vendor. It's like a whole crazy, ridiculous conspiracy theory that has gone way farther than I think most people would have expected. So maybe, maybe we're on the horizon of change. And it looks like because of the restraints on pause time, Niagara is opting to go forward with Bot Don, who, as we've talked about, has really, come to play for other teams. So maybe that's going to be his option here as he does his best to come forward for his team.
Well, he does a good job in terms of grabbing the attention of Nafy because Groff is there to pick up a trade. However, Squad will follow up on that, taking out the rest of the squad. Is going to be breezy. It's all up to Swordbird at this point, who's hanging out in connector with the Deagle, looking for a cheeky play like that. But a Demigod isn't going to fall so easily to that ploy. Picks up a wallbang headshot with the op, no problem.
Well, hey, the positive side of that is while it was a save, they come back. Fechner has reconnected to the server, so they're back up to full strength. So ultimately, not a lot of harm done there in terms of where they could have gone. I mean, obviously, you hope in any eco round that you're going to have some sort of miracle play come through. But DePaul has just, shut that door really quickly. We leave now with Niagara looking for some of that aggression, but
Oh,
unfortunately, just going down to a demigod who's there to answer that.
walking right into the crosshairs of a Demigod with the op on hand isn't something you'd want to deal with if you're Niagara University right now, coming out of that long tech pause. And now it's just a very slow play right now. They're not committing to anything. And that is what can make a lot of teams sweat. The fact that you aren't seeing the enemy.
And that was a great op hit onto Squad. Unfortunately, just legging it, or I think hitting him maybe through the wall and only doing 83 damage overall. So we're chipping away HP off of DePaul on the side of Niagara. But oh man, those
Whoa.
quick headshots from Jaeger and Naffy are just making it really difficult for Niagara to hold on to these sites.
Yeah, and who is left to try and bring it back? Both players out in tunnels looking to have this retake hand in hand. And they're just sending out op shots just to make something happen. We got Jaeger over from Graffiti, helping out Naffy. Naffy is just sitting in the corner like I would go as far as to say, a bit of a rat play hanging out in that doorway, but it gets the job done, and it's another round over for DePaul University, and now we're seeing Niagara on a very constrained buy.
And unfortunately, they're running out of real estate, or well, out of time in terms of how all this goes. So, they're really trying to put 5 rounds on the board the best they can. Like you mentioned, they're kind of constrained in what they're able to buy here with very limited utility. They did opt for some of the mollies and smokes so they can put down some of that counter util. But based on how things are going, they really need to just get some of these early kills a little bit quicker and win some of these fights, because again, B side unfortunately going down to a headshot this time to Breezy.
Yeah, Pedro and Flux there to get that first hit taken. And Squaw on the other side of the map continuing the carnage, and it still leaves players on B site not knowing the bomb is actually going to make its way over to A, and now nobody is there to defend it. We do have Focus running through tunnels, going to be in the back site, hoping to make a change here, but the smoke is going to block him off on staircase. He's going to walk up the dumpster, but he will be shot right in the back unless he swings into Squaw, which he does effectively. Almost picks up a demigod as well, but the op trigger is too quick on this player. Broth, last one alive, going through the back, has the FAMAS. What are we going to see from him? My first guess is walk right into that op from the demigod, and he does. 3 more rounds in this half. Niagara still has a chance to make it a 5-10 half, but this is a save round. I don't know, Viking.
It is seem like it's starting to slip a little bit away on this map with, again, I've mentioned it a couple times, once you hit that 12-round threshold, it's difficult to play around the economic theory because you just don't have the benefit of being able to save, and that goes for talking about the half or just, somebody getting up to 12 rounds on the board. So Niagara did their best to try to buy into this. You see the Scout, you see the MP7, a lot of FAMASes, not a lot of great equipment when you're up against AKs and a very aggressive and angry DePaul squad doing their best to make sure that they shut you down for good. But if they pull this together, if they pull this off, and they're not in a terrible position overall, they just need to close out the next 2 rounds after that.
I see a lot of players moving up onto long. It's actually going to be every DePaul player making their way up long. But they do have defenses set up. There's 3 players at least in the A vicinity, and soon enough Focus and Pedro and Flux might realize that no one's making their way over. A great shot from the Scout out from Swordbird. And now they have the information. They're in the know. All those players out from DePaul are making their way on long, and they're going to try and make their way over onto site. If they do so, commit to this one. Focus still hanging out by Connector, and Squad jumping out along with God Jaeger are going to take this site for their own. Finally, we have the rotation out from Focus. Finds 1, 2, and maybe even 3 as he taps them down and wins the 3rd round for Niagara.
Wow. Excellent job from Focus there, just putting his team in his backpack, as we've talked about a couple times, walking back up from that toilet area, getting that 3K, closing out the round, and saving the hopes that they have for not only this half, but for this map.
That was actually very unexpected from my point of view. I thought it was going to be too long of a rotation, that they were taking too much time. Focus kind of spent a lot more time than necessary hanging out in Connector, but it actually worked out perfectly because none of the players were even expecting them to come from that position, because normally it would be a move through tunnel that we've seen from Niagara.
Yeah, I think my main critique of that last round is the fact that you had all of the A players on Niagara's side were doing a really great job of counter flashes, keeping smokes down, doing everything they could to just delay that push. But you had both Focus and his colleague there just not able to move through and able to support that. So ultimately, while it did end up from a win, if Focus doesn't get that 3K, like, that's a round that was very easily in DePaul's pocket.
Yeah, relying on hero plays such as that is not going to be a very consistent strategy if you want to continue and win more rounds. A demigod, however, hanging out by sandbags, looking for someone to push from pit. Won't find that satisfaction as the rest of the squad moving up from monsters up to graffiti. And it does seem they're about to get that plant. They gotta know where Focus is. Got Jaeger, he's gonna spray right through that barrier and get himself an easy plant position. But if someone's moving up from top, they will be spotted out. Fechner goes down to a demigod. It's all up to Broth, who comes at a Connector, swinging like a madman, shooting. Doesn't make a shot connection, however, sending out the nade, looking to catch out anyone on sandbag. But at this point, it doesn't seem that he's going to do anything good for the squad right now. Already supremely damaged, but a demigod won't be able to put him down. It will be Naffy, and they're going to keep that up.
Hey, that was a great effort by Broth there, despite all odds to even get that first kill. Unfortunately, losing a lot of HP to that initial situation or that initial moment there just kind of made that 1v3 situation much harder. So, unfortunately, Niagara is going into round 15 down 3-11. But the good news is they have the opportunity to pull back this last round before the half changes over. And then, on the terrorist side, they can really feel pretty free about what's going on and try to make sure that they, do the best that they can. So here we see that, DePaul is already onto the B site. They're already getting those plants down, and Niagara is trying to rotate through as fast as they can. But there's a lurker waiting for them in that rotation, and it looks like both of them are going to maybe go down.
Oh, God, Jaeger. He actually loses that battle, and Focus does as well, but Swordbird is still on the prowl, looking to clutch this round out for Niagara to make it a 4-11 half. It's still possible. Just gonna swing around Graffiti, maybe fake the play, but no! Swordbird actually lands it and secures another round for Niagara, even though he doesn't have a diffuser. But I mean, come on, you had the money for it, man. Oh, no, actually, no, he earned it getting kills that round. So I was about to say, I was about to be a little more critical, a little more harsh. But, no, it's okay. Well done last round, a bit of a recovery out from Niagara at the end of that first half.
Absolutely, the best result that they could have hoped for, but now they still have a significant thing to overcome, or a mountain to climb, as we've been saying throughout the last couple of series, where they're at 4-11. They're doing the best that they can, but they still do not have much of a rope left to keep themselves from taking themselves out of this conversation entirely.
Well, I mean, it's all up to this pistol round right now. Set the tone. A majority, all of the Niagara players are rushing over onto A. They will start this onslaught, taking out Squawk. Got Jaeger severely damaged, and they're going to try and move it up further, but a Demigod Breezy and a Demigod. 3 huge picks to stop that rush from actually coming through to fruition, and they keep themselves going.
Yes, and unfortunately, not the start that Niagara was looking for. So now they're going to go down 12-4, and that mountain just gets a little bit higher, and lots to deal with there.
Let's see what the move is. Squad getting very aggressive. Sends out some shots into the crowd of Niagara, and they're just going to keep on rushing and try and ignore the fact that he's there. Probably not the best solution. You're going to have to wait around the corner or something, as it allows them to just continue to mow them down, and probably not long is where you'd want to be if you're trying to at least get to the site and you're under fire.
Yeah, unfortunately, Niagara just kind of falling victim to DePaul's reverse aggression in that case. You saw the flank come out there very quickly. And, without a lot of equipment, there's just not a lot of fighting you can really take, depending, if you're dealing with 2v1s and getting sandwiched from all sides. But Niagara, now on their first bye round with a scoreline 4-13, still has a couple rounds to deal with it, and they get that first kill through his teammate. So that means that they have the opportunity to pull out some of these kills. Swordbird able to take one, but not the second. So now Niagara's at a 2v3, and the flank from Squaw just absolutely destroying the hopes and dreams of Niagara, with Focus being the last one left in a 1v2.
Well, Focus, we've seen you come out in tougher situations, a 1v3 even. So can this be done by Focus? I'm going to say the possibility is there. The likelihood, not so much.
Especially coming out into this water position where there's so many angles to check, and you can see Jaeger just, his crosshair sitting at your level, although, man, that almost worked. He had the flash. He had the pop flash to get out of there, but unfortunately, Jaeger just feeling that out, going for the counter flash into the corner, just able to clean that up with such low HP on Focus. So now Niagara is really facing down dire straits, and you see a little bit of this panic buy coming out where they don't really have a lot to go. So they're similar to what we've seen in previous matches. They said, forget about it. We're just going to go straight for the win. We don't care about the tie. And if we get this, we get this. And if we don't, that's, what our choice to die by.
Oh, Nafi picking up 2 as the rest are trying to flood out onto site. But Jerome Flux making their way around Graffiti. Does win that duel, but he's only got 7 HP to try and keep himself in this fight. One player by Sandbags, and he knows it's gonna be Nafi. I'm not fully sure how the name is, but I'm gonna switch it up every time I say it until somebody corrects me. Nafi, close that one down, and this is still just a very struggling situation here for Niagara.
It is, and this is game point. So, they're in a position where luckily they're able to get rifles across the board here, but they need really to just answer some of this DePaul aggression. And unfortunately, the options that they have are just to kind of sit in these different positions, wait for DePaul to push through, and hopefully they can take those 1v1s or 2v2s that they seem to be getting. Unfortunately, in the last couple of rounds, DePaul has just been the victor in those situations, and it's made it really difficult for Niagara to really have anything to react to. So we're seeing that a little bit here. Fechner being able to get a demigod, but maybe not expecting there to have been a stack there. So it might be Breezy's opportunity to flank through, although the other player coming through connector may connect to them. Oh, the timing just doesn't quite work out for Broth, but a good attempt by Niagara to keep everything alive there.
Ooh, potentially nice swing from Got Jaeger, but it shut down a little too earlier than you would have expected. Now there's actually control over onto B site, but all alone, it's gonna be Fechner on A, and now they have the opportunity to get that defusal. They actually waited until the bomb was planted. Wait a minute, I don't think they actually knew where Swordbird was.
Doesn't
They
seem
have
like
to
it.
deal with this threat before they decide to end it. And almost Swordbird was able to save themselves with just another round to keep themselves alive in this map, but they do not, as DePaul closes out this first map of Overpass 16-4. It is kind of a similar situation from what we would have expected going into this matchup, Viking. Is it playing out how you would have expected?
Unfortunately for Niagara, yes, but I do think that between the play of the individual players like Focus, we have seen some moments where, similar to what we saw in the USA Colorado game, there was some opportunities for them to walk away with a lot more rounds than they had, frankly. On the flip side, as we got into that second round, DePaul said, sure, we're on the defense, technically speaking, but that doesn't mean we can't be insanely aggressive. So we saw lots of flanks. We saw lots of great shots. And I think most importantly, overall, both of these teams are really just giving it all. So, despite the scoreline, it's still a pretty interesting game. And we still have one more coming up. So we have some options. But what are you expecting going into the second map, Los?
It's going to look exactly the same, Viking. I have nothing new to add. It's kind of been this story going forward with the last 2 maps that we saw before this one. It's just a tough matchup. And when you're at the lower end of the leaderboard in a league like this, you're going to have to just take your licks, learn from the stronger teams, and move on. And we'll see if they are really able to move on as we get into our second map, which we will do in just a few moments, folks. But we're going to jump over to a quick break before we bring this series to a conclusion. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right here.
Don't know what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Wait to shake the ground, you feel it moving with the revolution. And I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our growlings when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes sound funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. Even if my jokes sound funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes sound funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding me up. Play me like a bass guitar, simmer down and mash me up. Tripping like I'm Jimmy at Woodstock. Me up, drumming round in your red Ford, shivers down my spinal cord. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes sound funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes sound funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Holding.
How did you find a way to run from the city of the sun? You could have stayed, it's only over when the day is done. I never knew you was a runner, yeah. I mistook you for the sun. It don't matter what we think when it's all over. 'Cause this is our last chance to leave it all behind. Raise your voice.
What is up, and welcome back, everybody. We are here in Map 2 out on Mirage. It's time to see if Niagara University can bring it back and get a dub against DePaul University. The likelihood of that is quite high. That's how I'm feeling. Optimistic, Viking. How are you?
It's Niagara's map pick, so I'm hoping that they feel confident enough to really put up a good challenge. But DePaul has been a convincingly difficult team to take down. So it was Niagara's map choice. So we're going to see DePaul over on the CT side, as we kind of expect that to be the choice for the team with the option. So we're going to see if Niagara has something kind of tricky up their sleeve. I certainly go back to the first time that we saw Mirage today, and we saw people just running all over the map trying to get picks that didn't quite work. But it looks like Niagara is opting for the more traditional aggression towards the B site. They do have one player sitting over towards the A site looking for some aggression. But so far, going from an immediate rush into something that's just a little bit more conservative. And it looks like they might be going for an A split from under.
Ooh,
Hey, I
that
like the look of that.
is a good move coming out from Connector. Niagara gonna push through Connector, not gonna check the staircase, and it's gonna allow Squad to pick up two. Broth does manage to get the trade out finally. Now Breezy manages to pick up one of his own. Only 2 players left on the site, but Focus is fighting for his life. Doesn't fight for too long, though, as Breezy shuts it down.
That was a great strategy. I liked the idea from Niagara. They had a good idea there by kind of, faking where it was coming from. Unfortunately, they just didn't have the utility to cover off Cat. And then, like you said, they didn't quite check stairs, so they ended up losing 2 to Squaw and 2 to Cat, with that one player being left at the end there. So it almost went really well. Unfortunately, Chris was able to get the bomb planter before he went over and got that down. So now we look at Niagara, just going for a hard save here, not investing anything into this round with a hope that they can get the bomb down and ultimately buy up in round 3.
Oh, wait a minute. Chris is jumping through and does manage to pick up Broth. That is a good move for them. Managed to keep their lives. It was a little risky literally jumping at their opponent, but they're still in this game. And Fechner, actually, another classic case. The main counter against this player is internet connectivity issues. But now it's up to Pedron, Flux, Focus, and Swordbird, the last 3 in the game right now, to hold it down as they're hanging out in A main. It will be Breezy who creeps on in, finds the first kill, waiting for the second, waiting for Pedron Flux to walk out of the smoke, and he finds him quite easily. Now Focus finding 2 with the P250. Doesn't get to do too much after that, but still puts a nice little dent in their part-time eco.
Absolutely. And like you said, unfortunately, Fechner, lost them a player in that round, which, admittedly, with the amount of investment they put in it, we weren't hoping for a lot there. But, Focus being able to breathe a little bit of life into the Niagara side there with those 2 kills at the end. So now we're looking at that familiar word across the center of our screen as we wait for Fechner to deal with his connectivity issues. And in the meantime, we're blessed by the presence of this time bot Tony, someone that we have not seen since, I think, Vertigo 2 weeks ago.
The return of the Tonester. A classic move from a classic player within the league is as far as substitutes go. But speaking of substitutes, there is also one player who made quite an impact last map who is not here today, or right now. Chris has replaced Naffy on the side of DePaul University. If chat is correct, our intel is good, they've got a date, so they had to jet. If that is truly the case, well, you gotta get your priorities right. CSGO is, I would say, more important than that.
Especially on Halloween weekend when absolutely nothing is happening other than this. So we're excited to share this moment here all together as one big happy family with you, Los, and our viewers on Twitch. Really excited to see what I'm assuming are these great tunes pumping through those Niagara headphones, as we hope that Fechner is able to come back. So far, no word from the team as to what's going on there, but as we've just kind of run into the tradition, I guess, with Niagara, we'll lose them for a couple minutes, and hopefully we'll see them back before the end of pause time, so Niagara can put their best foot forward. As we've talked about, Niagara is in a difficult position. They're a new team. They're struggling a little bit on the skill differential compared to some of the higher level teams in the league, and so they're really just they're looking for that first map win. And I think when that happens, that's going to be potentially an inflection point for them. It's got 16 weeks across the total of this season. We're after today's match are exactly halfway through the fall split. we're seeing them creep up a little bit, week after week. Their performance overall has improved, which has been great. And they have certainly not been facing easy opponents over the last couple of weeks. So, hey, we've got lots to care about.
Lots to care about indeed, and I'm just hoping that we can show some more care to Fechner. Hopefully can make a quick and swift recovery to the server. There's nothing worse than being able to or unable to help your teammates when you're just trying to win a game. You're just trying to play. Run out some rounds with the friends, the fam, the squad even. Here, as you said, a pretty empty weekend for most all people who aren't doing anything on a Friday night like tonight. It's important to have that bonding experience with your squad. But, I mean, on the real, when it comes to having disconnections, it's tough because you're just put in a position where you can't do anything. And internet connectivity issues, I would say, are the most frustrating and even worse than just losing outright.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough when you go in, hoping to execute on a strategy with 5 people and you end up, 4 or 3 a little bit further down into the round time. But what are you going to do? Sometimes, unfortunately, with online play, that's just going to be the name of the game. But luckily, we do have the technical pause for players to, figure everything out and try to come through with something that's a solution for that. And then we'll come back to it. But in the meantime, just talking about DePaul University, as we spent a lot of time talking about, the mountain that Niagara is climbing and their path to potential victory over the course of this season. DePaul on the other side of the spectrum has had a really good start to the season. They're currently 5-1, and if they take the second map today, they'll move to 7-1, tied with both Colorado and Marquette, who are all tied in the top 3 positions. Now, only Colorado and DePaul have faced one another so far, and in that, DePaul did manage to take the first map of the season off of Colorado in a pretty close two map series, with the rounds being 23-27. So I think the cool thing about that is as we progress through the rest of this season, we're going to start to see Colorado versus Marquette in week 8. We'll see some of these other teams coming to blows, if you will, over the next couple of weeks to really prove who the best of the best is. And then going down the leaderboards, Marist lost today to Siena, which was a surprise and an upset. Siena moving from 1-5 to 3-5, now with Marist being 4-4. So it's a pretty tough position. But with pause time running out, we're coming back to Niagara, relying on Tony to come through and be the bastion or the savior for their team.
Patron Saint Tony, that's what they're known as. But now it's actually looking not too bad as Niagara is able to somewhat execute over by a site, not fully taking the site, but getting a good amount of pressure, finding holes that they are getting a few shots in, able to corral the enemy team as DePaul is looking to rotate through and get all the way to Ticket Booth for a potential site retake. However, take a look over by mid. We got a player moving through, hoping to catch Chris off guard and maybe make this play a little more easy. He's pulling out the P250. Chris has got the pistol out, and it works perfectly on Brock. And that is an unfortunate moment of focus there to pick up squads. A 2v2. They just need to get the bomb down, or at least create some pressure at this point. Chris moving up from Tetris or Sandwich, and he gets it done.
There's a really unfortunate kind of sniffing out from Chris there for Broff trying that flank. That could have made the huge difference in that, but unfortunately just unable to get the frag to that P250, which can be one of the most annoying and dangerous weapons, and at only $250, that's certainly a worthwhile investment for any sniper. And as we come into this next round, we got bot Tony over there with his XM not doing a whole lot of damage, but Swordbird rushing out into mid, trying to get that control of the bot to make as much impact as they can out of it. And I think what we saw in that last round is that Niagara does have a chance, right? They can make a difference if they really put to it. But they got stuck a little bit as they get out on site. And Focus, meanwhile, as I'm saying that, gets 2 great clicks on the heads. and opens up the A site. But with that being said, they're going to try to play a little bit of, tricks and mirrors here, and they're going to go more towards the B site with 4 players now lining up in B apps with the intent to go to that site.
Roth is ensuring that no one's going to make their way through tunnel. At least it was for the moment. Now the flashes are making their way over apartments. The signal has been made. The alarm has sounded. DePaul University getting ready for that play. And Squad with the opening op kill will be supported by a demigod, but Squad is going to keep the kills going. The bomb is down, but isn't planted. And the last player, Broth, hanging out through jungle, through Sniper's Nest. And he will be spotted. I do believe they know he's there, and that's why they're getting ready. It's got Jaeger, who slides into action with that headshot onto Broth. Things still looking very unfortunate over here for Niagara, as we do not have Fechner back in the game.
Unfortunately, that's becoming a little bit more and more of a liability for Niagara, who's already facing such a difficult scenario. Then, I mean, in that round, I think that they had the right idea. They got that 2K. They lined up and ready to go in B apps. And unfortunately, that really favorable situation just took a little bit longer to execute on than I think they were hoping for. The rotate came out really quickly and ultimately didn't work out. But Roth taking that initial kill onto Breezy takes an op off of the map. So now Niagara has an opportunity to open up this mid play and can go anywhere, really.
Well, it's leaning toward A at this point, as we do have a player already deep onto A. He's right underneath the staircase where there's a player. It's Chris. He doesn't notice, and he's gunned down. And now another player's looking to make their way through jungle. Squall with a quick headshot from the op is looking to make some more magic happen on the window. But things are looking up for Niagara at this moment. A demigod, the last one in play, stuck in the ladder room, hoping to make a great escape through the Sniper's Nest, but Broth is here to make sure none of that takes place.
Great round from Niagara. They're first on the board. A huge victory as they try to bring this all together. DePaul, still all things considered, made that an uncomfortable round as they went through that. And now that they're up 4-1, they've got some rounds to play with. They don't have to, panic about this at all because they've got plenty of time to deal with this. And that's why you'll see a little bit more of a light buy out there, a little bit investment into MP9s and armors. And they're going to see what they can pull out of this. And hopefully Niagara can walk away with a second round and capitalize on that. But you never know.
Broth taking a little bit of damage. A little tag to the leg as he's making his way onto top mid behind the boxes. But the op is there. The control of mid should be there. I don't think anyone would dare try and challenge that. Breezy in a great position with the deagle. Sets it up so his teammates are there to help him. And now Squab coming in from a flank. I don't even know where he came from. He takes out that op at the top of mid. And suddenly, DePaul steals that momentum right back from Niagara.
And that's exactly what we were afraid of, just the aggression from DePaul that they're just really excited about. It seems like there's no fear in their eyes as they're on the CT side thinking like, all right, we're going to go for a flank. We're going to go for an aggressive peak somewhere. We're going to make sure that we make every invested dollar that we have count. It really works out for them. And unfortunately, if you're not prepared for that, as we saw, Niagara just wasn't quite ready and not connecting on some of those shots, it can become a really dangerous situation. And even now you see a little bit of hesitancy from Niagara to be in some of these positions where they're just not able to get that. And unfortunately, Broth going down to Squad coming out of Palace, forcing Niagara into a 4v5.
Squad continues the damage, putting it onto Focus as well. But still, DePaul has taken a hit in the form of Chris, who has fallen down, but look at this guy. Squad is just too strong with that op. Swordbird having an op of their own, hoping to get some revenge. Actually, no, it was a scout, and it still had the same effect. The one shot sent out into the dome of that deadly op user has put in at least a bit of a hiccup in the defense by DePaul.
And now in this 2v3 situation with Swordboard on 14 HP, they don't have a lot of options, unfortunately. I mean, in theory they can go anywhere they want, but a demigod has already sniffed out Swordbird at top mid, who was unable to connect and do additional damage. So now Broth the sole survivor on the side of Niagara, just is going to have the option of, trying to go somewhere as we see him take that fight, but unfortunately go down to a demigod who gets on his second kill. And Niagara now faces down the barrel of a 7th round going in favor of DePaul.
Yeah, Niagara is just in a very, very tough spot right now. I'm not even sure what their game plan should be going forward. How are they even going to try and assess the situation to come out on top?
It is, but what I think is, at least, if nothing else, a positive. I did get word that Fechner is able to reconnect to the server, so we should see him coming in next round. But I think you're right. Niagara's tried a variety of looks, and to their credit, they have seen some success in some areas, and this aggression might be the right answer for them. Unfortunately, they only had 2 of their players there, and that was immediately hit by several of the DePaul players who were able to collapse and just make that kind of a non-issue. So as we go into this next round with them back at full strength, we're probably just looking at this money not going to be in a great buy position, although Fechner, because of his disconnect time, is going to be at 16k. So who knows? And Focus, being the one alive here, might be able to make a big difference and maybe make this an expensive round for DePaul.
Almost had the ability to take down Chris as well. Only found a demigod, but Focus still a formidable player on the side of Niagara at this point. Fechner, a welcome return back into this game. And hopefully this could at least inspire some more confidence with the squad.
Agreed. And, it's still early in the game, relatively speaking. I mean, right, this is out of 16, obviously, or sorry, out of 30. So, we're only in round 9 there. We're seeing these good moments from Niagara that if they just capitalize on, 1 or 2 of them, we could see a couple of these rounds swing. And then before you know it, you're at a 10-5 half. And then maybe when they switch over to the CT side, they start to pull it back. I certainly have no doubts that Niagara is capable of that. It's just whether or not they can practically move to that. Swordbird just hitting some crazy shots this round, doing some great work for his team, is going to, be one of those crucial players making that happen.
Now, Fechner knows that a demigod is stuck in sandwich, going to send out the molly and force out that death. And a demigod will fall. It's Prince holding this angle right now, but Fechner is going to swing on a perfect timing. The very moment they looked away, it's all up to Got Jaeger in a 1v3. Swordbird's got their number, though, but Got Jaeger's going to open it up with a kill. Swordbird, like I said, had that number and was waiting for the moment to strike. Niagara University, the moment Fechner comes back into this game, they start to bring it back with a 2nd round win.
Fechner definitely making up for his absence over the last couple of rounds, doing a great job there. And I think that's exactly the kind of thing that we just need to see. Like, Swordbird is really trying to own that top mid position, and to his credit, at least in that last round, he's had some good luck with that. So if he's able to continue doing that, or if Fechner keeps getting these opening headshots, then they're going to be in a great spot going into these next rounds. Breezy going down.
Such a ballsy play, ran right through the molly in order to get a headshot to take out Breezy, but Squaw back on the op. That's a player you gotta be careful of. You gotta worry. You can't take that in a just a careless fight. Scott Jaeger making the first incursion, make the first poke into this retake. A demigod supporting from the staircase, drops into sandwich and finds a second. Before you know it, Focus is all alone, and a demigod shuts it down for a 3rd, and he's going crazy just like me.
That is one of those rounds, like, we talk about heartbreaking, backbreaking rounds, and that was a really tough one because you saw the efforts out of Niagara there bore a lot of fruit, right? They had a great execution onto the round. We saw that initial headshot from Fechner taking out Breezy, which has been one of the anchors for that site, just doing great work. And unfortunately, just because of, a lack of utility for the post plan, they just couldn't quite contend with the pressure that DePaul was bringing. And they did such a great job of suffocating the opportunities that Niagara had to settle down a little bit. But as I say that, we already see Chris, while on that op at ticket booth, is already down to 10 HP. So, these types of shots that are just going in the favor of Niagara is exactly what they need. They just need to be able to close those rounds out.
The damage has been done over onto Chris, but they need to be careful of Squaw on the op. 2 players who are quite deadly. Squaw showing the prowess and Breezy there to follow it up with a 1D to cut down the ranks of Niagara, but they will fire back. Broff going in and taking out a demigod. And they still have room to work with. That pressure was made over on mid, and they aren't exactly sure where they could be, but this forward play coming out of Breezy ensures that nobody is going to go through A main.
Yeah, and if I'm Niagara right now, it's just, kind of speed and aggression is the name of the game. Is you see everybody else on the DePaul side spread out across the map, but it looks like Broff is going to be just a little hesitant, which might end up being the difference between taking the site and not, as we see the rest of the DePaul side coming up, both Cat and Market.
I'm hoping to go down, but Squad got Jaeger. Clean up the mess left on B site. That's a 9th round. Things are just going so easily in the way of DePaul University. I don't think, they didn't fully clear out B site on the side of Niagara. They just jumped onto site. Nobody was in their direct line of sight, and they assumed it was clear to plan.
Yeah, and an unfortunate place to be. Just, a lack of utility, a lack of options, and not a lot of players left when you finally get to that execution perspective. Just kind of force them into we'll say, a non-ideal situation, which, to their credit, I mean, like, they went with the level of aggression that we would hope that they were. Unfortunately, DePaul is just finding these cleanup kills or these off angles and holding when they really need to. And that quill from Chris onto Broff really just, kind of sets the tone for how things have been going for them.
Have one player caught up in top mid, and he gets away narrowly with his life. It's Pedroan Flux, barely clinging to life there with 24 HP, but that's a sign that mid is not under their control, and it's going to allow a demigod to push on through and potentially be a flanking threat later on, but they got to worry about the ones right in front of them. It's Squaw, still a menace with the op, and Chris jumping at the top of staircase will find that focus is pretty powerful on the op themselves, but a demigod, is Breezy hanging out in Palace, waiting for them to push on. Nobody checked it. 2 free frags going over to DePaul, and now Swordbird all alone against Got, Jaeger, and a demigod. 2 players from opposite angles looking to clear out this one from the beginning. Hanging out on trash can, finds the first one and doesn't take any damage. There's a player on site. The smoke is going down onto, it is a fake, and it's good. A demigod gets off the bomb and finishes off Swordbird in order to clutch out the round.
I feel like we're just kind of seeing some of the same rounds over and over again, unfortunately, for the side of Niagara, where they're doing this work, right? They're coming to work on this, whether it's, Swordboard or Focus, or occasionally we see Fechner and Broff getting some of those really great kills in the early parts of the round. They're able to get the bomb down. They're able to even get some of those post-plant situations like we just saw there, but unfortunately, they're just not able to capitalize. Although I say that, Focus takes the head off of Squaw. Unfortunately, Chris answers right back, taking over Pedroan Flux, and now it's just a shooting gallery in mid with Focus answering back. So now 2 players down on the side of DePaul, Niagara primarily in mid, and there's a lot of options for them to do. Now there's only 2 players left on that side.
Chris looking to try and keep that back and forth, keep going back and forth, but no, there was 3 players waiting for them down on mid, and if you try to swing one, you're going to swing all of them, and one of them at least is going to find you. Now, got Jaeger, hoping to find 3 if they decide to commit to this one. They got, they don't have much cash at all, but it does seem that got Jaeger is going to commit anyway. Going up through stairs, going to have to look to your left. Oh, it wasn't even the stairs player. Broff swinging out from CT, taking that one down. Niagara University got 3 rounds right now.
And DePaul, for the first time, kind of getting punished on the aggression that has worked out so well for them over the last, 12 rounds, frankly, and just kind of losing some of those, as I mentioned, a shooting gallery in mid, just a lot of people going back and forth, with one going one direction and the other going to the other side. So Niagara able to capitalize on that, finally, see something goes their way, and really just, Broff cleaning up at the end there, just making it something that gives them the opportunity to breathe a little bit. They take the fact that they got a victory is no small thing.
Absolutely. They fight tooth and nail every round to try and ensure themselves another round, but they just are oftentimes unable to close it out. And to see them finally get that done must be a good feeling, not just for them, but for, us in general to see that they still got it. But while we're saying this, Chris is coming out with 2 1-digs over onto mid. Or Connector finds a 3rd frag and is just holding on so well in this one moment. We have Breezy, I believe, still on site. If they go around that corner and find a 1-dig, there it is. It's a 1v2. They don't have a rifle, but they still have a chance to keep themselves in it. Jumping away, narrowly escaping into A main.
That is a nightmare scenario for Niagara. It's one thing to lose maybe 1 or 2 people to a 1D, but to lose a 3rd and to still not have that site. Broth making the smart decision to just run to B site, although Breezy understands that that's happening. He's going to go immediately for that tunnels and try to cut him off. So really it's a race against time as to whether or not Broth can get a safe plant down before we see Breezy take over the apartments. Although now with the op, he's opted for the cat take. So Broth is in a safe space. I think he saw where he was, so he's going to go for that. I would have saved the molly probably a little bit for sight, but we'll see how they can do here,
Wait a minute. He doesn't know. He doesn't know he's defusing. Oh my god.
That is a truly heartbreaking moment in this game. That was absolutely a difficult round from start to finish, right? They were able to come back, luckily, from the damage inflicted by that deagle, but this is the 2nd or 3rd eco round that we've seen from DePaul that has just gone against Niagara, and they don't seem to have an answer for that, except for, the 3 rounds they put on the board, which haven't been great.
No, certainly not. And this is their last time on attack to see if they could have a successful site taken. It's so painful to know that they lost on an eco round as well, Finally, they do have more weaponry to work with on the side of DePaul, so that just makes the confidence go even lower.
It does, but we've still got rounds left, and maybe that did not go well at all. Oh goodness, that missed shot just makes a huge dent in their hopes to get this 4th round at the end. So it seems unless Swordbird is able to pull something out just crazy, although they do have Focus, who's been their frag leader and impact player, maybe they'll be able to pull off a 2v4, 1v4. Just kidding, it's not that. So we're gonna go into this 2nd round with DePaul being at 12, Niagara to 3 rounds as Niagara takes on the CT role.
Well, this is a tough new half out here for Niagara. It's a new start.
I just based on what we know about DePaul, I'm expecting they'll probably be pretty aggressive here, and whether or not Niagara is prepared for this is really going to decide whether this game goes into any semblance of a closeness. So we see them setting up for the A execute. We see that Niagara's already starting to cheat a little bit more towards the Beast. Oh, just kidding. They're not rotating yet. Maybe. See what happens.
Ooh, Fechner with the initial frag and coming out with the 2nd one, but a Demigod and Chris are pushing out onto site, deepening their control all the way up to ticket booth, but they don't have it quite yet as Chris works to keep this fight going. Only 1 player left. It's Swordbird coming out of jungle. The bomb is going down, but so is Swordbird.
I'll give Niagara credit there. Their pistol rounds have been competitive, which has been great. We saw some good 1-for-1 trades there. I think we ended up with a 2v2 and then another kill off of CT before ultimately falling. So, it's there, but unfortunately, when you're facing a 10-round deficit in the 2nd half already, like you can't take any of those rounds for granted, and you really have to be able to capitalize on it. So we see DePaul coming back here with an aggressive buy, getting the AKs and a MAC-10 and a Galil out there just to really, try to put the nail in the coffin. So Niagara, has just got 3 rounds left potentially.
Ooh, okay. Their defense over on B is seemingly just 1 player. Swordbird out by Van, and now DePaul moving into market. They're already showing their force with a great molly onto Broth, and Focus will follow. Breezy continuing the carnage into market as Chris locks it down, picking up a a little USP, just a nice bonus advantage to go into that next round.
Yeah, I'm sure that in that point, Niagara's like, let's just get this out of the way. We know that we're not going to have the gun advantage or the gun resources really to compete with what DePaul probably is going to bring out. So they go for a full save. They get their third round in there, and now they're in a position where, if nothing else, they're going to lose entirely on their own merit, and it's not going to be about the equipment that they have.
Well, it's better to lose on even footing than at a disadvantage in terms of that. But now it's actually still in favor of Niagara at this point. They are severely damaged, but the man advantage is there, or it was, as a perfect shot through the smoke right into the head of Pedro and Flux evens this one out. The bomb will go down, spraying through the box. It doesn't make a connection. We still have Squall here alive, but he's very hurt, mortally wounded, and the wall bang comes true. And it's all up to a demigod. He sees one jumping on his left, but keeps his mental. They get one, but they can't get a second.
And interestingly enough, they dropped the AUG in favor of the AK. I suppose that's a comfort thing. I probably would have stuck with a more expensive weapon there just for the sake of the upcoming rounds. But hey, Niagara comes back with their fourth round. They're able to put a little bit of a lid on the momentum of DePaul there, and that was a well fought round. There wasn't a significant advantage from one side to the other. That was just a hard fought, grinded out version of Counter-Strike. So if Niagara can keep that up, as long as they keep seeing those individual fights go in their favor, they certainly could come back and make a reasonable run of this.
Without a doubt, or at least give a great show for us here. Not to pad those stats, but to learn that you can beat a fierce squad, but a demigod pushing through along with the rest of their team, making their way through connector and fully enveloping a site. One player coming through into CT by the ticket booth is focused. He finds one, but that's all he can find before he greets death. And now DePaul University have gotten themselves on to match and series point.
That was just an unfortunate moment there of, forgetting that the length of the A1S is just a little bit longer than the A4. And as a result of that, he pokes out of the smoke and just gives away his position without even realizing it. And unfortunately, that just leads to a very simple and straightforward cleanup on the part of DePaul there. So now as they're on map point, Niagara is fighting for their lives. And as you can see, there's just not a lot of equipment on that side. So they're doing their best, but DePaul, immediately getting this first kill and their second, and just trying to clean this up as fast as they can.
Yeah, their speed running the end of this game. Focus does get a nice frag out, but it will not matter. I won't imagine too much, but Chris, I guess they're just toying with their food at this point if they're confident enough to just kill their own teammate with the AWP to potentially add more to their name. Pulling out the knife at the worst moment, it's Squaw, and he's gonna pay with his life for it. But Breezy, handled by the bench, they're waiting. Almost a collat. It almost is a collat. Chris and Breezy close out here on Mirage. 16-4, a score we've seen many times before, Viking. We have seen it many times before.
Yeah, a lot of these matches today have been, we'll say, a little lopsided, with only a few of them breaking double digits. So, it's not something that we necessarily would have expected, I think, looking at some of these matchups, maybe. But unfortunately, it just, kind of is the way that the game runs. So Niagara, unfortunately, is going to walk away with this without picking up their first map. DePaul is going to go 2-0. They're going to stay in the running with both Marquette and Colorado, as they think about their standings moving into the next week. So I think overall, we had a pretty good run of all these games. We only had Iona, able to score more than, or as I mentioned, get into double digits in terms of their round scores. But hey, I had a lot of fun. It was great to see some of these newer teams that are up and coming, that they're doing their best, flash a little bit of that potential brilliance. So for some of these, whether it's Niagara or the University of South Alabama or even Iona and the some of the struggles that they had, that potential is there. And as we see, continuing week over week, I'm pretty excited to see how week 5 and beyond goes.
Yeah, there's plenty of potential to be explored by all of the teams in this league, but we can explore the minds of some of the top teams, that being from DePaul, with an interview after a quick break. Don't go anywhere, folks. You don't want to miss this. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EGF or Week 4. We just closed out our last match with a strong squad, being DePaul University against Niagara. And coming out from DePaul is someone you saw in the kill feed quite a lot, especially with that op. It's Squaw. Squaw, congratulations on that win. You guys killed it. How are you feeling going into Week 4, or coming out of Week 4, that is?
We're feeling pretty good. We're really starting to gel. So I just joined the team and at the beginning of the season, and we really feel like we're really hitting our stride and we're gelling. And after that, it kind of shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was we've kind of watched over the course of these maps and matches. DePaul has obviously come through as one of the top teams. You've obviously rolled through this pretty quickly and decisively. Was there anything, kind of understanding what Niagara looked like on paper that you were thinking going into this, or was it really just, kind of put your head down and do your normal game?
We're pretty confident right now, so we're just trying to run in and just kind of force other teams to play our game. And
Hmm.
I mean, we went over their stuff a little bit, but our overpass is really strong, we think, and we're really trying to funnel teams into that and just like I said, force them to play our game.
Right.
And we're pretty confident that we can do that with most of the teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of most teams, as I mentioned, you guys are top three along with Colorado and Marquette. Marquette, you're not going to see for a little while yet, but Colorado, you played last week. You ended up taking the first map of them for the season in a pretty scary looking squad. So as you kind of think about, your victory there, is there a way that you're trying to transition that into upcoming matches, or is there a way that kind of impacts the way the team's thinking about their positioning overall? Is there vying for that top spot?
Um, Colorado was a good team to play against. I think we went 1-1. They
Hmm.
won the second map. It was really close. And I think that just showed that I think they were able to kind of I think it was Inferno, and they were able to just kind of just play like they were really able to get B control and do other things. But I don't know. We're just trying to like so for Inferno, we're like looking over our stuff, and we're just really, like I said, trying to make people play our game. And us dominating the pace is really important. This whole game, this whole Mirage game, we just dominated the pace on either side. Whether it was me jumping around with the op or just them holding it down on B and A, it didn't really matter.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about how your team is, as you said, gelling. We also had a substitute come in mid-game, Chris. Since you're relatively new to the team, how new in general is this team? How are you all working together to build that team chemistry?
So thankfully, Chris had actually been on the team last season, and he's been playing with these guys for a while. So it was pretty easy to sub him in. We luckily have that route where we can, if we need to have a sub, it's a guy who's already been on the team. So really, I'm just trying to find my place on the team, and I think I have, at least in my opinion, and finally getting to that spot where we're all playing around each other, able to, and we're really communicating. And if we're playing on the like sites together, we really know what each other's are going to do on those sites, and that's so we feel pretty good about that.
Well, that's good to hear, man. Congrats on your win, Squaw. Congratulations on still maintaining a spot in the top 3 teams in this league, and I'm very much looking forward to you and your continued games throughout this season.
Thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it.
All right, folks. Well, that was a amazing set of matches. We saw so much skill put on display by a bunch of different teams, and well, 3 namely throughout this series, but it's good to know the potential that is arising throughout this league. And unfortunately, we have to bring this to a close, but we will be back next week, Friday. Every Friday is EGF CSGO action. Of course, so you don't forget, I was Los, and joining me on the desk, as always, is my main man, Viking. Viking, thank you so much for sharing the desk, and thank you to our producer, Werewolf, Juke, who had to, both of them working together to make this a great stream, and all the teams who are participating in this league. Thank you for joining us, and have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Unknown Brain, Marvin Devine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming, it's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a